UFC 268, Usman versus Covington 2. Welcome to another UFC prediction analysis video by yours truly here at Boxing MMA Picks. He goes by the name of Zan, I go by the name of Harris. And as usual, we're giving you our fight-by-fight breakdown, fight-by-fight analysis, specifically from the betting perspective. Here to let you know which fights are worth the value, which fights are not worth the value, the ones that you want to avoid, perhaps which underdog has the best shot at winning, and sticking around to the end of the video, you get some parlay action as well. If you haven't done so, please check out our YouTube, subscribe to the channel at Boxing MMA Picks. You'll definitely see all of our content on there. Be sure to like all the videos on there, participate in the comments. We want to hear from you. But we have a lot to work to do for this rematch, Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington. 9 fights on the prelims, 14 fights overall. So we're going to get right to work with this prelim card prediction, starting with fight number 1. We have CJ Vergara taking on Ode Osbourne. For this fight, CJ Vergara, he beat Bruno in September back on Dana White Contender Series. UFC debut, of course, in that case. He's on a 5-fight win streak. 6 of his 9 professional wins have come via KO, TKO. So you definitely have to respect the pop that he has. A good pressured striking style that he showed in the Dana White Contender Series fight that he had. Wants to be the fighter coming forward, decent head movement as he's coming forward as well. Decent counter straight. Of course, you, again, like I said, have to respect his pop with his KO percentage. Ode Osbourne, on the other hand, he lost to Manel Cap in August. That was that flying knee, of course. Pretty long reach, quick, explosive. He's a southpaw. We see that in this fight, he's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage. Look for him to take advantage of that. Again, southpaw shows pretty good boxing, pretty good kickboxing as well. I like his accuracy, doesn't really wind up on his punches. I like his combinations as well, usually 2 to 3 punches at a time. Mixes in the kicks at a pretty decent pace as well. Ground game and his clinch work isn't the best in my opinion, although he does have a wrestling background. He did wrestle in college, so at least on paper, he should have it. This is an interesting fight, respectfully a low-level fight in a lot of ways, where you don't really know the true level that either fighter is at from a skill perspective at this UFC level. I do think Ode Osbourne offers a little bit more. I think he has better striking technique. I think he has better combinations. Again, the college wrestling, even though I haven't seen it in his MMA fights, he does have that. So that is something that he may have on paper as well. CJ Vergara, on the other hand, I mean, he could very well clip Ode Osbourne and end it early, almost like Manel Cap did, but I don't think that will happen. Like I said, I think Ode Osbourne offers a bit more tools, and because of that, he's going to be my pick.
Yeah, that's fair. This is a tough fight. I'm going to start off the card. I'm going with the underdog, CJ Vergara. I think he's a good prospect in the UFC. I like his striking. He's well-rounded. In a fight I was actually impressed with was his fight versus Jacob Silva in Fury FC for the title. It was a 5-round fight, and he had a rough first round, but as the fight went on, he carried on. He actually showed a lot of heart in that fight. And Jacob Silva, don't let his record fool you. He's a decent fighter. He can strike. He has a lot of power. He's definitely a good litmus test to see where CJ Vergara is at for me. Ode Osbourne, I'm not really sure here. His IQ is not the greatest. He's going to be athletic in this fight. He's going to be a big guy, a strong guy. But if you really look at his wins, he won a fight versus Jerome Rivera. And Jerome Rivera is a terrible fighter, or he has been a terrible fighter in the UFC. Armando Villarreal on Contender Series, a fight he was the underdog. He was on his back, and he was able to pull out an armbar. He won the fight. But there's not really much on his record here. And a lot of his fights are first round. He has 2 fights that have gone decision, Antonio Sanchez and Corey Galloway. One fight he won a split decision. The other fight he lost a unanimous decision. So he's the type of guy that he hasn't really seen the second and third round. That doesn't really happen in his fight. He either wins in that round or he loses in the first round. I'm going to go with Vergara here. I think his striking, his movement's really good. He has a really good clinch where he lands the knee in your chest and your body, and he does that in all of his fights. It seems like it's second nature to him, and he gets a lot of power in that. I think he has some wrestling to keep us on the feet. He may even get the takedowns, but I think as the fight goes on, second, third round, the cardio is going to show. Vergara does not slow down. So Vergara is my pick to winning his debut.
Fight number 2 in that case, we have Melsik Baghdasaryan taking on Bruno Souza. Baghdasaryan beat Colin Anglin in July. That was his debut at the time. 6-fight win streak. We see his record there at 6 wins, 1 loss. Southpaw on the feet, pushes a really good pace, almost like a controlled aggression in a lot of ways. Light on his feet, quick strike, quick kicks, good jab, power, high-level kickboxer. Pretty solid in the clinch as well. He does have some takedowns from what I've seen, but he definitely slows down after that first round. Still effective, but very much slows down from that blitzing pace that he throws early in the fight. Bruno Souza, on the other hand, it's his UFC debut. He's competed in LFA for quite some time. Karate style fighter, solid striker, decent movement, especially going backward with that counter punch. The hands stay low, true to that karate style. Decent kicks. He is a BJJ brown belt, so does have the grappling knowledge. Doesn't really have the best takedown defense, though. I do think this is a good spot for Baghdasaryan to have a bit of a showcase. I think he's up against a guy in Souza who wants to strike, who doesn't present much of a threat in terms of bringing the fight to the ground from what I've seen, and a guy who doesn't really have the best striking defense. So I'll keep the prediction short. I pretty much like Baghdasaryan all day here, unless he blitzes it in the first, completely runs out of juice, and Bruno Souza handles the storm. I don't see that happening, though. I like Melsik Baghdasaryan here. I wouldn't be surprised if it is a finish, but I'm going with just a win, minus 300.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm going Melsik as well. I think this is going to be a striking fight. And just to give a bit of a analysis on my part, I'll make it quick. Melsik's my pick. Bruno Silva, to me, he's a Machida fighter, actually, I believe. He has a Machida stance. He has that karate stance, sideways stance. And he's going to be fighting Melsik, who has that Muay Thai. And whenever you have a Muay Thai guy versus a Taekwondo or karate guy, I always lean towards the Muay Thai guy. And in this scenario, the only way the Taekwondo or the karate guy really beats the Muay Thai guy is if that Taekwondo and karate guy is one of the best Taekwondo and karate guys versus just a regular Muay Thai guy. Melsik, I see him. He has a lot of potential. I think he's high level striking in this division. He has high level Muay Thai. Muay Thai versus Taekwondo. I got to go with Melsik here. He has more tools. He has more power. And I think he's going to finish this fight here because this is going to stay standing. So Melsik is my pick.
Fight number 3, we have Dustin Jacoby taking on John Allan. Jacoby, I believe, is a fill-in for this one. I forget who the original opponent was, but either way, Dustin Jacoby beat Darren Stewart back in August. He's actually on a 6-fight unbeaten streak now. I think he had 1 draw in between there. A complete methodical striker, pretty good boxer, good kickboxer as well. He'll chip away with the kicks while possessing really good accuracy with his hands. Good movement, good counter punching. That calf kick, again, has shown to be quite a problem. And in terms of his pop, 10 of his 15 wins are via KO, TKO. But it is more from accuracy, more from accumulation, more from speed, as opposed to just kind of one-shot kill. So definitely have to respect his striking prowess. For John Allan, lost to Roman Dolidze back in December of last year. Decent kickboxing, solid use of the leg kick in his stand-up. Willing to engage for sure. Good clinch work against the cage. Good takedown defense from what I've seen. Don't think that'll matter in this fight, though. He has good takedowns and good wrestling in his own right. But I do like Jacoby in this one. I think he's too good on the feet. Of course, John Allan, I do expect to have the wrestling advantage. So it's not like Jacoby is better everywhere in this fight. But Allan, from what I've seen, can't really keep guys down when he does land a takedown. I don't see it as a consistent weapon for him, especially throughout the fight as the fatigue starts to kick in. So, I can see John Allan grabbing a round, maybe even grabbing a round and some change. But I can see Dustin Jacoby winning round 2, winning round 3, if not winning all 3 rounds. So I like Jacoby here. I wish the odds were maybe even a minus 280. I would have been all over it. Minus 340, a little steep, but I'm still satisfied with picking Dustin Jacoby here.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. Dustin is my pick as well. This is mostly going to be on the feet, and Dustin is levels above John Allan. However, this is a contrast of styles where if John Allan can get this to the mat, he definitely will have the advantage. But since Dustin has come back to MMA from kickboxing, he brought back those skills, and he's on a streak right now. He's on quite a run right now. This is the best he's done. This is his prime. This is his time. He's 33, and this is the best he's ever looked. So I'm gonna go Dustin Jacoby here, put on a show here, and he should get this done here with his striking. It's levels above John Allan.
Fight number 4, we have Gian Villante taking on Chris Barnett. For Gian Villante, he is on a 3-fight losing streak. He lost to Jake Collier back in December of last year. On paper, he's not bad. I mean, solid kickboxing, sets the shot up well, has some pop in his right hand, good striking IQ, decent pressure, decent control of the octagon, sneaky inside leg kick as well. But I mean, at this point in his career, ever since moving up to that heavyweight division, physical form and cardio is just way too much of an issue. He looked decent at 205, just completely got out of shape, doesn't have a heavyweight frame, but continues to want to compete in this division. Not too good in the heavyweight division from what I've seen. Chris Barnett, on the other hand, he lost to Ben Rothwell in May. Has a lot of style in the ring. Some of his videos have some good traction on social media, spinning kicks, spinning wheel kicks, things like that. For his size, he moves pretty well. Pretty good athlete, moves surprisingly well for his size. Southpaw, good low kicks, and he does have some wrestling, some ability to grapple as well. I have seen him compete versus Yoel Romero in a grappling bout, albeit he lost that. But I mean, I'll keep the prediction part of it short. I just can't trust Gian Villante at all. I mean, I'm not quite sure why he's still on the roster in a lot of ways. I think this is an easier matchup for Barnett compared to his debut versus Ben Rothwell. Villante, of course, is nowhere near the size of Ben Rothwell. Can't be confident in either guy. Either guy can hurt each other. This is still a heavyweight beware at the end of the day. But I'm going to go with Chris Barnett. I think he ends up getting his first UFC win here.
Yeah, I'm not liking this fight. This is Bellator PFL quality. This is a really, really low level. They clearly want Gian Villante to lose this fight, where they're pretty much giving Chris Barnett their worst heavyweight on the roster, or close to it. But I'm not sold on Chris Barnett. I'll make this short here. Do not bet on this fight. This fight is terrible. This fight should not be on this card. It should not be in the UFC, period. It should be on the Contender Series or Bellator or one of those other smaller shows. But I still think Gian has more. I think Gian has more than Chris Barnett. Like Chris Barnett, aside from landing one of those spinning kicks, and this is coming from a guy that's 5'9", 270 pounds. Like this guy, he could win. He could win this fight, but I can't trust it. His boxing is horrible. He does have the kicks. He has the kicking advantage. He moves around the ring a lot. But as the fight goes on, Gian Villante, as bad as he is a UFC fighter, and he has some wins. I'm not sure Chris Barnett is at this level. But I won't be surprised if he wins this fight. This can go either way. That's how bad each fighter is. But I'm going to go with Gian Villante here to get a win here. I think this is a fight that, if there's a fight he could win in the UFC, this is it. So Gian Villante is my pick.
Not mad at that at all. Fight number 5, let's talk about Ian Garry taking on Jordan Williams. Jordan Williams lost to Mickey Gall back in July. He's on a 2-fight losing streak. Southpaw, pretty light on the feet. Has some pop in his hands. Good left straight as well. Likes to engage, has a lot of toughness, definitely has that heart as well. Solid clinch work, good activity in the clinch. Showed decent takedown defense in his Imavov fight. But definitely showed super suspect submission defense in that Mickey Gall fight, of course, that we talked about, that we just mentioned, where he lost back in July. For Ian Garry, he's an undefeated fighter from Cage Warriors, making his UFC debut. Looks to have, pretty quick hands, decent movement, good long jab from what I've seen. I've seen him fight off the back foot quite a bit. Has a bit of a stick and move type of style where, of course, try to hit the opponent, get out the way right away. I've also seen a pretty good head kick from him, a good low kick as well. Sharp combinations, just good overall punch IQ is where I'm getting at with Ian Garry. Looks like he has a bit of a clinch as well, good head position in those situations. And I've seen him defend pretty well against a grappler and Cage Warriors. Not too relevant in this fight. Jordan Williams is not that kind of opponent, but definitely good information to have, in my opinion. He's shown me solid IQ with the sub defense, solid ground position as well when he is on top. But like I said, that the ground part of it shouldn't matter that much. I do expect this to stay on the feet. And again, this could be a showcase for Ian Garry. Jordan Williams is definitely a tough opponent, has toughness, has heart, but I do think Ian Garry is the better overall fighter outside of catching that big shot from Jordan Williams. So I'm going with the newcomer. I am going to say stay away from this from a betting perspective. I know Zan has talked about newcomers in the UFC and their first fight in the UFC versus their second fight. This could very well be that situation. And when I see Ian Garry at minus 380, I say that's way too steep. But from a pick perspective, I do think Ian Garry will get the job done.
Yeah, there's too much money to pay for Ian Garry here. And I'm telling you, I look at the guy, I think he's a decent fighter, but the hype on this guy, I was expecting something like a lot more than what I saw. Now, he is a good fighter. He's well-rounded. His striking seems decent. But again, like the hype that's coming behind this guy, I expected a lot more. But in this matchup, I'm going to take him to win, but I'm going to echo Harris here. You don't want to put money on that. Jordan Williams, don't forget, he beat that huge guy in the middleweight division, Rodriguez. Don't ever forget, he knocked him out on the Contender Series and he got his contract. So this guy can come out and put on a show. This guy has it in him. But I'm going to take Ian Garry because of what I've seen. He is good. He is pretty much good everywhere. He has good striking. What I like in this fight is his age and his height, 6'3" to 6'1". He's going to have the reach advantage, and he seems to know how to use it. So I'm going to take Ian Garry to win the fight, but the odds, no way. That's too much. That's too much for this guy. It's a lot of hype. It could be Ireland. It could be the fans. Because, when Conor was coming up, the Irish fans used to move the lines a lot, the way they put in on their guy. This could be a similar situation where the odds are like this because Ireland, a lot of the fans, and just went in on their boys. So I'm not sure why the odds are this big. But I'm going to take Ian Garry. He should get this done. Jordan's going to be smaller with his health issue, his diabetes. He can't really cut the weight. So he doesn't really cut much weight. So he's smaller than every fighter he fights. So I think that's going to be a big factor in this fight. So Ian Garry is my pick.
Fight number 6, and probably the most intriguing fight on the prelims. We have Edmen Shahbazyan taking on Nassourdine Imavov. For Edmen Shahbazyan, he lost via unanimous decision to Jack Hermansson, 2 losses in a row now after, of course, starting his career 11-0. Pretty good stand-up, good pop in his punches, throws a lot into his strikes, but he is still a patient striker, still has a solid jab to him as well. Presents somewhat of a boxing style in terms of his stand-up, pretty hand-heavy in his striking approach. He's dangerous in the first round. Almost all of his wins are via round 1 KO. 9 of his 11 wins to be exact. He can defend a takedown despite his 55% takedown defense percentage. Has solid wrestling as well. We saw it at times in his last fight versus a wrestler in Hermansson. Also averages almost 3 takedowns per fight at 40% accuracy. So definitely have to respect that as well in terms of being able to bring the fight to the ground. For Nassourdine Imavov, he beat Ian Heinisch in July. Good calm movement, pretty light on his feet, fights from the outside, good quick jab, good quick left hook as well. Doesn't really strike first. I do see him as more of a counter puncher with good timing. Doesn't really throw combinations at times or at most times from what I've seen. Great striking speed though, definitely very relaxed in the ring. Almost 70% takedown defense. Phil Hawes was able to land a couple of takedowns early in their fight, but I would consider Imavov to have pretty solid takedown defense. Only 0.79 takedowns per fight, but he is at the end of the day born in Dagestan, right? Definitely trained with Dagestani wrestlers. Don't let the lack of takedown numbers, see it as a complete lack of ability to be effective on the ground. I think that's something that he can probably unlock in his game a little bit more. Like I said, very interesting matchup here. I do look for Imavov to have the quicker striking and the more diversified striking. I do look for Shahbazyan to have the power advantage. And, despite Imavov's ability, I do think Shahbazyan offers a little bit more in terms of his ground game. But this fight, in a lot of ways, truly a 50-50 fight for me. I think Shahbazyan maybe offers a little bit more on paper, but Imavov probably offers more in terms of being a threat in this match, the more dangerous technical striker. But I do think the X factor in this one, sometimes it really just comes down to X factor. And I think the X factor in this one might be the losing streak that Edmen Shahbazyan is on. 2-fight losing streak, as I mentioned. I think he's going to do everything in his power to not lose 3 fights in a row. This is a pay-per-view card. It's a big event. There's an audience. He's going to want to put on a performance. He's going to want to get back in the win column. And for that reason, I think he's going to find a way to pull it out. He is the slight underdog on this one at plus 105. So I'm going to go with the underdog, Edmen Shahbazyan. He's my pick.
Yeah, that's fair. To me, this is a really, really tough fight. When I look at the striking, I think both guys are good strikers. I really don't know who is the better striker. I think we'll find out on Saturday. I don't think anyone can really be confident in saying this guy for sure has the better striking. Both guys are good in certain areas in striking. I like Shahbazyan's. He has precise striking, and sometimes precision is all you need. And when you look at Nassourdine Imavov, he moves around that ring. He has good movement. He has good footwork. He has a really good jab. So this can be a good fight. These guys both have really good boxing when you at the UFC level. What separates this fight to me is Imavov, the Russian. He has that wrestling. Now, against Phil Hawes, obviously, he couldn't really implement it. But against when he fought his last fight, he fought Ian Heinisch. He was able to get a takedown. And that's Ian Heinisch, who was really hard to get taken down. He got a takedown versus Jordan Williams. These are 2 guys that do implement wrestling in their fights. And when I look at Edmen, I don't think he can stop a takedown. I don't think he's that good at stopping takedowns, especially when it's against the cage. I think if Imavov can get him against the cage, I think he can get the takedown. I think Shahbazyan needs to get this done in the first round, is how I see it. Second, third round, Imavov, I see pulling away here. I think he has the better cardio, the more heart. He's not getting finished out here, even when he loses these fights. He's not getting finished. Well, when you look at Edmen, I know it's a higher level of opposition, but not against Jack, but against Derek Brunson. Even against Jack, he looked really bad as the fight went on. His cardio's not there, or there's something wrong. So I'm going to go Nassourdine Imavov. I think this is a tough fight. It's going to pay good, so whatever side you go on, you're going to get a good pay on it. But I just think Imavov here can hold his own in the strike, and I think he has the better wrestling, the better cardio, and I think that's going to win him the fight. So I'm going to go Nassourdine Imavov here to get this done.
Great additional insight in what should be a very close fight. Definitely one where you can go on either side from the betting perspective. Let's talk about fight number 7. We have Phil Hawes taking on Chris Curtis. I wouldn't spend too much time on this. Phil Hawes had a pretty good win back in May versus Kyle Dawkins on a 7-fight win streak at this point. We know he has that scary power. We know he cuts the ring off, almost a stalking style of stand-up. Throws fakes, throw feints, sets up his punches, level changes as well, shows that wrestling, good calf kick, pretty strong against the cage, going back to that wrestling background. And, has good takedowns, has solid takedown defense, good top control, solid ground and pound as well. Chris Curtis is making his UFC debut. He last competed in July. He's on a 5-fight win streak in his own right. Southpaw on the feet, primarily a boxer in terms of what he offers. Solid on the feet too. I mean, he looks like he can really put combinations together. Looks like he can get out the way of an attack from his opponent. Looks to be pretty composed on the feet. Looks like he has solid punch IQ. Looks like he can defend a takedown as well, at least at the lower level in terms of competition. Chris Curtis should have the cleaner stand-up between these two fighters, but I can't necessarily say he has the better stand-up. I don't know that. I don't think that. I don't think it's that much ahead of Phil Hawes if it is considered better. Phil Hawes wrestling should be a problem for Curtis, in my opinion. We saw Curtis, first of all, this fight is at middleweight. We've seen Curtis in other promotions at welterweight, and I think about the Ray Cooper fight, be taken down. We've seen Ray Cooper able to keep Curtis down in that situation as well. So you take a look at Phil Hawes, who's the more physically daunting person compared to Ray Cooper at this middleweight division. I don't see a reason why Phil Hawes wouldn't be able to do the same thing. So I do like Phil Hawes in this one. Minus 330, I'm not too mad at. I can understand it. And I can see myself maybe adding this to parlays, but to keep it straight for the pick purpose, I'm going with Phil Hawes on this one.
Yeah, I'll make mine quick here. I think Phil Hawes gets this done. I think Chris Curtis is definitely the better striker here. But I don't think he has that one-shot power that's going to stun Hawes. I think Hawes is going to find out early that he's not the better striker, and which is a good thing. He's going to find that out early and utilize that wrestling. What I like about Phil Hawes is in his fight versus Kyle Dawkins and Imavov, he utilized wrestling in these fights. So I expect him to do the same here against a guy that's coming in just trying to box. Phil Hawes is the more well-rounded fighter, and he has such a big advantage in the wrestling that I have to take Phil Hawes in this spot here. So I'm going to go Phil Hawes here to play around the striking a bit, eventually get this to the mat, win a clear decision. He may get a finish, but Phil Hawes should get the win.
Fight number 8, definitely the most intriguing fight of at least the prelims. Iaquinta makes his return, taking on Bobby Green. Iaquinta, he last competed 2 years ago. He lost to Dan Hooker. That was October 2019. 2-fight losing streak going back to that time. Decent on the feet, although his style, in my opinion, bit of an older UFC striking style, if that makes any sense. Decent right straight, decent jab. Definitely at his best when he's coming forward. He knows how to cut the cage off pretty well as well. And looks to reach for that single leg. I wouldn't quite say he legitimately goes for the takedown every time with it, but more so just to get his opponents thinking, more so to use it strategically where he will, reach for the single leg and then immediately jab or immediately throw a 1-2 combination. So definitely has that strategy and IQ to his game as well. Bobby Green lost to Rafael Fiziev in August. Pretty dynamic in the stand-up. He's a long fighter. He fights from range. Interesting to see that he's only going to have the 1-inch reach advantage, and they're the same height on paper. I'm curious to see how accurate that is. But pretty dynamic in the stand-up, long fighter, uses his length while still marching forward when he needs to. Also keeps his hands down, relies on his speed in terms of striking defense. Definitely likes that front kick. Has some wrestling too, although I wouldn't quite rely on it. But a respectable 1.5 takedowns per fight at 40% accuracy. This is an interesting one because, again, when a fighter doesn't fight for 2 years, you really don't know what version of them you're going to get. You don't know if it's what you've seen 2 years ago. You don't know if it's a deteriorated version of that, or you don't know if it's a significantly better version of that. So in a lot of ways, there are a lot of question marks in this fight. I wouldn't bet on this at all in any direction, regardless of how you feel, just because of the amount of question marks. But based on who Iaquinta was, minus the level that he was fighting at, because you definitely have to respect it. He was a top 10 in the division, definitely have to respect it. I do like this matchup for Bobby Green. I think he's maybe the more dynamic of the two in terms of his striking ability. I think his striking is a little bit more diverse. And again, I don't think Iaquinta offers much of a threat outside of his striking prowess in his own right. So I like Bobby Green in this one. I don't like this fight from a betting perspective, but Bobby Green will be my pick at minus 170.
Yeah, I'm going Bobby as well, man. For me, it's the activity. Like, Iaquinta hasn't fought in 2 years, and Bobby Green against Fiziev, he had a good showing. Some people thought he won. I believe Fiziev won. His fight versus Thiago Moises, he definitely won that fight. And these are fighters that, when they strike, they like to throw kicks, right? So I think Bobby Green's going to get the fight he wants. He's going to get a guy that's going to want to box with him. Iaquinta may look to get a takedown, but Bobby Green has shown that he's hard to get taken down, even to keep down. And Iaquinta, I'm not sure, can do that for 3 rounds. So I'm with you that Bobby Green striking should be the factor here. This should be on the feet. And he should have the better significant strikes in this fight. And that should get him the win. It's cleaner boxing. This stays on the feet. And I think he's going to win a decision here. So I'm going to go Bobby Green, his activity. And he's been looking a lot better lately. So that's another thing going for Bobby Green here, is that in his losses versus Fiziev and Thiago Moises, he didn't look bad in those situations. He looks like he still has it. He's still motivated. And I think that's going to be important in this fight. So I'm going to go Bobby Green here to get this done.
Moving on then to the final fight of the prelims, we have Alex Pereira taking on Andreas Michailidis. For Andreas Michailidis, he beat KB Bular back in May. Decent overall stand-up, pretty patient, looks to pick his shots, goes after the body pretty effectively. I've seen both punches and kicks to the body, so it's definitely something that he intentionally includes in his game. Pretty sharp calf kick. I think that can really be a weapon for him. Kind of heavy on the feet, though, not the quickest laterally. A bit of a wild puncher as well, especially if you go back and watch that KB Bular fight. There were moments where I don't know what he was swinging for. Pretty wild puncher from that perspective. Alex Pereira, he's making his UFC debut. Only 4 MMA fights, but don't let that alarm you. He is a fighter that has a very extensive kickboxing background. Of course, nothing but a silhouette, I should say, on the ESPN side of things, but the name may sound familiar. You may know him as the guy that beat Israel Adesanya, actually to hand Israel Adesanya his only kickboxing loss via TKO. That alone should speak to his striking ability. Pretty good at coming forward, patient, closes distance on his opponents, good high kick, good body kick, good knees. He can definitely do things like spin kicks very effortlessly and very effectively. Good short hook, and definitely some really good power to go behind that. Prediction-wise, I'll keep it short. I think this is very winnable for Pereira. I look for him to have superior striking. I look for Michailidis to be too slow. I think Pereira can definitely or potentially knock him out and have a very impressive debut. Again, going back to that magic word of the day, which is having that showcase. So Alex Pereira, I look for him to get the job done here. Final fight of the prelims, way to ring in the main card, crowd, audience, pay-per-view event. I think this is a good position for Alex Pereira. I look for him to get it done. And minus 260, I'm looking at pretty solid odds despite a debut.
Yeah, I'll make mine quick here. To me, this is a tough fight, though, because obviously Michailidis does have that wrestling in his arsenal, and Pereira, mainly a kickboxer, a really good kickboxer, could get taken down over and over again here. But in Michailidis' fight versus Bular, he could have done the same thing there. Bular couldn't stop a takedown if his life depended on it, and Michailidis kept it on the feet. He couldn't even finish KB Bular, a fighter that should not have been in the UFC. Definitely not UFC level. Now, Pereira, I've been following this guy for a long time in the kickboxing world. He's dangerous. He has those wins versus Adesanya. He has wins versus pretty much all the big names. He even has a win versus the current heavyweight champion in glory. I'm sorry, light heavyweight champion in glory. So he won the middleweight, and then he also won the light heavyweight title in glory. So he was a champ over there. In this fight, it's tough because I'm not sure where his takedown defense is at. But because Michailidis does not invest a lot into that, again, that could change. I got to go with Alex Pereira here. His power is too much. I think with the 4-ounce gloves, he should be able to knock him out here. It's going to be some type of knockout with his hands. And I think he's going to finish Michailidis. But I think this is a fight you got to be careful with, because even as good as Pereira is, we do not know if he can stop a takedown. And if Michailidis is smart, he'll go in there with a takedown heavy approach, which turns the fight in his favor. But I'm gonna go with what I've seen for Michailidis. He does not wrestle a lot. Pereira has to know that people are gonna want to take him down, so he has to be working on this takedown defense. And the levels on the feet is too much to ignore. So I'm gonna go Pereira to get a knockout here at some point.
Sounds good. So let's take it to Vegas. At that point, let's take a look at the prelim card. We have 9 of them to choose from. From an underdog perspective, who are you considering has the best shot?
Yeah, I'm looking at CJ Vergara.
CJ Vergara plus 150, definitely providing some solid odds there if you're feeling the same way. For myself, in terms of the underdog that I feel has the best shot at winning, I'm going to go with Edmen Shahbazyan, even money plus 100. That is going to be my underdog pick. And in terms of favorites, who are you looking at?
Looking at Melsik, Baghdasaryan, Dustin, Jacoby, and I'm also going to throw in there Phil Hawes.
Phil Hawes. So those 3 fights will pay plus 125, pretty healthy plus 125. $100 will return $225 for our bigger bettors. $250 will return $563. In terms of my favorites, I'm in a lot of ways going with the same 3, but I'm also going to add a bit of a gut check there. I know you definitely raised some legitimate caution for this Alex Pereira fight, but with the opponent, Michailidis, I just haven't been impressed with him at all. So I'm going to include Alex Pereira on one of my picks or my parlay as well, in addition to Dustin Jacoby, in addition to Melsik Baghdasaryan, in addition to Phil Hawes. Those 4 in that case would be a plus 215. $100 will return $315. And for our bigger bettors, $250 will return $788. So we are going to sign off. On that note, like I mentioned, make sure you subscribe to the channel at Boxing MMA Picks. Make sure you like our videos, hit the notification bell, hit the thumbs up, participate in the comments. We want to hear from you how you felt about our picks. What are your specific picks? What's your underdog pick? What's your parlay pick? We want to have all of that conversation in the comments. So please be sure to participate in that. Otherwise, like I said, we are going to officially sign off. This has been UFC 268, Usman versus Covington 2, the prelim card prediction video by yours truly here at Boxing MMA Picks. He goes by the name of Zan. I go by the name of Harris. And as usual, let's get this money.
Let's do it.